Both of my great-grandfathers have been a part of that study. My roots in environmental health come from my great-grandfathers. They were sharecroppers, and then later they were able to own land for their family for generations to come. My ancestors' connection to the land has given me a strong care for our environment and how that environment influences human health. I am a fierce advocate for equitable treatment for all. The ways in which COVID-19 ravaged Black communities showed that we have underlying vulnerabilities when something like a pandemic hits. The path from tragedy to triumph travels along the path of learning.
Industry was hurting, but I didn't bandage the rope. Now I got too sick with it. Now we done found us.
You know, I mean, here comes Monmouth, the defending champs. Now they come in at North Carolina A&T for homecoming.
Advice to Monmouth for homecoming at A&T.
You're giving advice to Monmouth?
Yes. Very much needed advice for Monmouth for homecoming at A&T. Leave the band at home. But at homecoming, you can just get the whole 20 minutes to A&T.
Hey, don't sleep. Monmouth has been practicing neck all summer.
When we see Dr. Lee get out there on the field, we know something.
You can find our shows on Facebook at BCSN Sports Wrap, YouTube at MyJBN Online, and everywhere you listen to podcasts like Anchor, Spotify, Google, and Apple Podcasts. You can also find the show on the Jericho Broadcast Network's app. Make sure to download. We look forward to you joining the conversation and being a part of the show.
The inaugural Boeing Red Tails Classic is personal to me. It's more than a matchup between Tuskegee University and Fort Valley State University. My beloved father, Colonel Lawrence E. Roberts, was a proud member of the Tuskegee Airmen. 922 brave pilots, also known as the Red Tails, fought in World War II. The Boeing Red Tails Classic is more than a celebration of HBCUs. It's a reminder of the Tuskegee Airmen's valor and sacrifice, the first class of Black fighter pilots who trained at Tuskegee Institute in Alabama during the height of Jim Crow, fighting for America, while in many ways America fought right back against them. This inaugural Boeing Red Tails Classic, this football game, is for them. And it's quite special that this game, which will be played at the Crampton Bowl in Montgomery, Alabama, opens the 2021 college football season on Sunday, September 5th at 7 p.m. Eastern on ESPNU. When you watch this game, please remember its larger meaning, that it's for a group who advocated for themselves while still facing prejudice and discrimination in the segregated Army. The Tuskegee Airmen story hardly gets told enough. I, proud daughter of a Tuskegee Airman, join others who champion their legacy and how they influence generations of Black cultural and political leaders.
You're looking for the latest information on Southern University sports, the Southwestern Athletic Conference, and HBCU athletics. There's only one place to go. Tune in to the Carlos Brown Show, exclusively on the Black College Sports Network.
Both of my great-grandfathers have been a part of that study. My roots in environmental health come from my great-grandfathers. They were sharecroppers.
YT Productions.
Yeah. I love my HBCU. And boy, I love it, love it. I love it, love it. I love my HBCU. And man, I hope my team they won one. Yeah. I hope my team they won one. Yeah. Man, I hope my team they won one. I hope my team they won one. Yeah. I tune into the HBCU Sports Lab to see if my team won or lost. If they lost, I'm quiet as a mouse. But if they won, keep tab. I'ma do the dab, yeah. Dr. Ville, he know what he be talking about. Mike and Charles, they know what they be talking about. They compress the analytic data with this hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they won or lost, and who the ball, So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach a lesson. And you gon' learn today, you gon' learn today how your team they play, how they play, boy. You gon' learn today how your team they play, how they play, yeah. We represent that SWAC, that MEAC, and let me say, what's up to Tennessee, stay. Just tune into the HBCU Sports Lab with Dr. Ville, Mike and Charles.
This is Dr. Ville inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. And as you know, for our Sunday edition, we bring in none other than the football analyst. Some call him the football guru, and I'm sure others call him all other type of names, but we don't have to repeat that on this show because he is the man, the myth, and the legend. And guess what? I'm sure for you all that haven't seen it, we are delighted and excited because now he is officially a member of the BCSN team. Man, he was a hot free agent, and we went into the marketplace and got him. His show is every Wednesday at 6 o'clock, 2 hours. BJ Jones, is that correct? So
yeah, we're going 2 hours.
6 to 8, you will get all you need to know, in-depth knowledge of football. And, you know, he is just the guy to keep it live as well. So that's the kind of spirit we got going on, man. We got a full team, and that is none other than BJ Jones. How you doing?
Man, doing pretty good, man. We had football yesterday, man, so all is good.
No doubt about it. And then we got A.D. Drew driving the truck from the back end, but, you know, he's multi-talented. Sometimes we bring him on. He just got off the road, literally, as he was down there in Florida to make sure that you can get the most of all, because like you said, here, we don't just talk about the major division. Now, we'll spend a little more time on that because that's what a lot of people want, but we're going to touch on all the HBCU football. That means he's going to give you front and center insight from down there in Florida, Jacksonville, for the Edward Waters Florida Memorial matchup, which was a thriller. I won't spoil it. But with that said, A.D. Drew, how you doing it this morning?
I'm doing fine. And the Big Cat Classic, at least for the fourth quarter, lived up to the hype.
No doubt about it. We'll get in a little more into it. Let me go back to my team extraordinaire. Mike will be on the back end. He's literally flying as he was down there in Atlanta, making sure that you can get the most of that insight like none other. So he was in the house there. He'll be in on the back end of the show to give us, you know, the special insight of what he thought about all the sights and scenes in terms of the MEAC SWAC Challenger, like we like to say in these parts, SWAC MEAC Challenge. With that, we have Charles as he gears up because he's heading out back to Florida, down there in the deep part in Miami with his team, with the pregame show, Charles Bishop and Neely, as they'll drive that show. And so I even teased out a little bit there. Florida A&M, Jackson State, SWAC, that is a matchup. Mike and I will be right here for the Labor Day Classic to make sure you get all that information. And no telling where BJ Jones is because he's the magic. Follow him on Wednesday. He'll let you know. He'll let you know. With that being, how you doing, Charles?
I'm doing well, Doc. I mean, it's football season. We're up and going, and this promises to be a great, great year. Looking forward to it.
I like that. That's twice we've even heard that. So you know what's serious over here. It's football season. With that being said, let's go back to you, AD Drew, and just talk about that game. But before you do that, I know you wanted to get a little insight in terms of Ken Rashad's article that really touched the nerve with some. I thought it was a great article personally. I thought he put it out there, and it means that anytime you get folks lathered up and talk and they want to provide some other scenarios, other angles, means you did a good job because people are talking about it. And research, in my opinion, is about that, meaning that you set it up on a tee so people will take a deeper dive and look a little deeper at the numbers and maybe find different angles to do that. And you want to do that now, Drew. So what are your thoughts on that?
First of all,
on
shout
the article
out to
we
Ken
referenced,
Rashad.
just for those that don't know, it's the article that Ken Rashad did at HBCU Sports that looked at historically white colleges, as I call it. He said PWIs, in terms of the average attendance of games between 1990 and the 2000 in regards to over a 10-year period, looking at those matchups, and he saw his reported was a significant gap. Over 25% was the difference between what historically white colleges had at home for their home attendance, which is like at a 70+%. And then HBCUs at their home attendance was just under 50%. Take it away, Drew.
First of all, shout out to Ken Rashad and his staff for putting those numbers together. As somebody with an economics background, I do have a degree in economics. You know, numbers are my things. And when I look at statistical analyses like this, you know, it intrigues me. You know, I see numbers in ways that other people can't see and can't understand numbers. So with that being said, though, as an economist, I also know that you could make numbers say what you want to say in a statistical analysis.
Hold on, that's a tease. I'll put that tease right there. The famous poet Jay-Z said, women lie, men lie, numbers don't. You're taking umbrage to that and you're saying, hold on, not too fast. Those men and women can actually make the numbers say what they want, meaning they can make the numbers lie.
The numbers don't lie, but the numbers can have a slant.
No doubt about it. So welcome to episode 171 of Inside the HBCU Sports Lab radio show and podcast, the show that's covering the sporting HBCU dives for all things HBCU sports, from institutions large and small, from the NAIA to the NCAA. We share insights and information on the HBCU sports culture and HBCU athletic aesthetics to facilitate the story of HBCU athletic programs and the business of HBCU sports. I'm your host, Dr. Kenyatta Caville, along with my co-host, Mike Washington, Charles Bishop, BJ Jones, and always dropping in and driving the machine. And you'll see him throughout the season as none other than AD Drew. So he's literally part of the team, especially for our Sunday edition. We are filming from our home studios, and that is literally across the country because that's what we are able to do. KSUH 1230 AM studios is where during the week we send our live studio with the Hall of Famer Ralph Cooper, who's driving this as well. But I am in the beautiful home of Texas Southern University from Houston, Texas. With that, AD Drew, as we tease that out a little bit, what are you saying?
Well, like I said, you could if you do it right, you could take, and I'm getting nerdy just like y'all did on Thursday, going back to Thursday's show. You can take the numbers and tilt an equation to make it appear how you want it to appear. Heck, I won't say half the research I did when I was in school and grad student and some of the papers I wrote, but
don't tell on yourself. Don't tell on yourself.
You find that one thing, and then sometimes you go back and make the equation fit the outcome that you're looking for. Sometimes you work it backwards. So with that being said, when I looked at those numbers, and I'm just going straight by the numbers that were presented in the article, the first thing that stuck out to me was, yes, we know HBCU fans travel. They're going to go support their teams on the road, which is where I think this article may have been slanted to. But when you look at the stadium capacities, and like Mike said, you try to normalize some of the numbers. If 25 of the 32 matchups that were presented, when I say matchup, that's both the home and away. I'm considering that one matchup. 25 of the 32 matchups, or 78.1%, the HBCU had the largest stadium. So with the HBCU having the largest stadium, just on the pure numbers, if you got 10,000 in a 15,000 capacity stadium, or 10,000 in a 25,000 capacity stadium, the percentage appears lower in that 25,000 capacity stadium versus in that 15,000 capacity stadium. And let's be real, most HBCUs build their stadium for two things. They make their stadium capacity in order to handle homecoming, and if they have a classic in their stadium. The other 3-4 home games, they could care less about the attendance. Those are the two that they want that stadium full for. I digress on point number one.
Great points there, BJ Jones. I did want to ask you what, if any, particular thoughts you had on this article from a football analyst perspective, that is.
Oh, man, one of the things that really jumped out, and AD Drew just hit my first point I wanted to make, stadium capacity. You have to factor that in. If you look at the FCS stadiums, the larger capacity stadiums are in the Southwestern Athletic Conference and amongst the HBCUs. So, we have those stadiums that are over, 20,000 fans and so forth. Also, you also have to look at HBCU culture. All right. I know I started my career at a PWI. I know that when UAB has Alabama State in their FBS, but it's the same way with other PWIs. I know when UAB has Alabama State on the schedule, Alabama A&M on the schedule, FAMU coming up on the schedule. I know that now for that game, you're going to get people involved in that game that won't be involved in any other games. For example, if you're a PWI, HBCU coming to town, all of a sudden it's Black Alumni Weekend. It doesn't matter the PWI, your Divine Nine Greeks are out. It's almost like, PWI homecoming, all right? Because, the HBCU is coming to town. So you're going to get that extra boost because you're going to have some of your own fans that don't normally tune in, i.e. like this weekend. Troy, this is their Black homecoming weekend. Why? Because Southern's coming to town. All right, so you're going to get people involved in that game that's not necessarily there. And on the return side, when those schools come to HBCUs, a lot of our fans, to be honest with you, aren't excited. There's this, the HBCU experience is all encompassing. It's not just the football, it's the band, it's the tailgating, it's all of that. It's that culture that we have. That culture, for the most part, is unique to HBCUs, especially when you talk about FCS schools, who the big FBS school in the state, usually it's the thing. So when we don't have that, and the other school doesn't bring that same flavor to us, we even lose a couple of our fans, because I've seen fans say, hey, I don't want to play them. They don't travel, they don't do this, they don't do that. So I think, there's multiple factors that tie into that.
I really agree with both of y'all, shockingly, as you may think about it. And I think you make excellent points. I will say this on the back end, as we get prepared to go to the break, and then we'll come back and let Drew follow up with his second point before we actually get into some breakdown of the matchup, particularly in this case, Stella Waters and Florida Memorial. My biggest point when you do studies like this is not necessarily to get mixed in the grind in regards to a slant on the article or who's trying to look bad, but from a THG agency consulting business perspective, I think this is extremely important for the athletic directors. We've heard Roman Banks at Southern University, one of the things he talks about when he negotiates his contracts, whether it's classic events, whether it's looking at who he's going to bring home for games, trying to seek to play more home games, games that his fans like to attend, or when he's negotiating with historically white colleges at the FCS, particularly at the FBS level, he makes sure that he negotiates from a place of strength, understanding that his fans travel and that there is a said number of fans that will provide an electric atmosphere for the historically white colleges. And so he makes sure that financially it takes into the framework of getting that money that is allotted to him. And that's more important to me is from a business perspective, not to get lost in the fact of whether our fans like this or don't like this, but this is a business. And so we need to understand and have data from a business perspective, which is one thing unique from an economics perspective that Drew was talking about. Oftentimes cities do their economics so they know a business angle to take in regards to negotiating contracts. And so I think that's more important about this, that hopefully our athletic directors, VPs of athletics, take this into consideration to understand a place of strength and where they are in terms of when that fan base comes here, that this is not necessarily a sum game, and this is not necessarily an equal game where you traditionally see folks just do a home and away series. You may need to make sure that you put a financial numeric number on that based on data that you can show another AD of saying, hey, I need you to understand this, and this is why I'm going to ask for this if we're going to do this matchup. So with that being said, this is Dr. Bill inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington, Charles Bishop, BJ Jones, AD Drew. We'll be right back after this quick break.
It's showtime! Get ready for Cracker Barrel National Battle of the Bands! Presented by Pepsi Zero Sugar. Sunday, August 29th, 4 o'clock, NRG Stadium in Houston. Featuring the hottest HBCU marching bands. Southern University, Langston University, Tennessee State, Norfolk State, North Carolina A&T State, Texas Southern, Bethune-Cookman, and Jackson State. Don't miss the battle on the field and the stands with scholarships. Over $500,000 in counting for our HBCUs. It's an HBCU experience you don't want to miss. With a weekend of activities with the Cracker Barrel Step and Stroll, Pepsi Zero Sugar Emerging Experience, Esports Masterclass and Gaming Tournament, and the free Pepsi Zero Sugar College and Health Fair. Tickets start at just $15. Get them right now at nationalbattleofthebands.com. It's the Cracker Barrel National Battle of the Bands. Sunday, August 29th, NRG Stadium, Houston. Gates open up at 2:30. Also sponsored by Cricket and HEB. NationalBattleOfTheBands.com. Get your tickets right now.
Let's get back to strolling instead of scrolling. Before we can safely come together, we need the facts on COVID-19 vaccines. Visit getvaccineanswers.org so you can make an informed decision for yourself and for your family.
Texas Southern takes on Prairie View A&M for the Nix Gurley Traveling Trophy and the Labor Day Classic on September 4th. Tickets available online at tsusports.com/LBC tickets. Support the Black College Sports Network so we can continue to provide you coverage. Go to myjbn.com/support and be a part of the Black College Sports Network. Tell everybody they can follow their dreams.
This is Dr. Bill inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington, Charles Bishop, BJ Jones, as well as AD Drew. With that being said, I know, Drew, you wanted to add a little more to that conversation. So before we get into the Edward Waters Florida Memorial matchup, go ahead and make your second point.
All right. Going back to the stadium size, there were 7 instances where both institutions, the HWCU and the HBCU, had similarly sized stadiums. And I consider similarly sized stadiums capacity within 1,500 of each other. And in 5.5 of those 7 times, the HBCU on the road drew a larger attendance capacity-wise than where the HBCU was the home team. And I said 5.5 times because there was one instance that Ken pointed out where the capacity was exactly the same percentage-wise in those similarly sized stadiums.
Nice. Great breakdown of the analysis there when you talk about that. One thing I was saying off the mic that I will tune in before we get into Florida Memorial is we have to be careful about seeing Blackness or African-American or Africanness, if you would allow me to use it, Africanerness as a deficit. When some people say that as a deficit model. When I look at it, I already know my place and where I feel I am in terms of who I am, historically and currently. So it doesn't bother me to look at numbers and understand that sometimes numbers in a Eurocentric framework may not work out in such a way that you feel that you're equal. That's fine. But from a business perspective, take the data, understand your cultural relevance, and then push it in terms of a way that you can control the narrative and the focus from a business perspective of how you want to move forward in your organization or your institution. That's the last thing I'll say right there. Let's go back to Drew, and then we'll go around amongst the fellas and break down some of these games that we've seen yesterday. We'll save the big matchup. Yes.
Let me throw this out there before we go to Drew. Apparently, you must awaken all the MEAC fans this morning because I'm getting texts out of the woodworks. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. It's good to see you this morning.
So is that the hornet nest? Delaware State hornet nest in terms of the MEAC that we
my phone has all of a sudden awakened.
Yeah, you threw that rock, but nobody here is hiding their hands. We understand where we at clearly about that. We're going to get into that the second half to let all those MEAC folks revel in the excitement as they well deserve. And if you know anything about the SWAC, which is interesting in this side of the country, the SWAC gives it to their own members. So it wasn't just the MEAC fans giving it to Alcorn or the SWAC. It was the SWAC members giving it to Alcorn. That's just the way we roll down. It's serious like that. But before we get in too much fun with the MEAC, and thank you for all those who are jumping on. We have a robust crowd today. So it is one of those things you said, good morning. Yes, we're in the house. We're going to give it to you. AD Drew, let's take it down for those in terms of Jacksonville. That was an exciting matchup. I mean, it literally went down to the last seconds of the game. Started off slow for the first half with Florida Memorial finding a way to get it done. It seemed like they were going to ruin the day as Edward Waters University now was opening, debuting their new stadium. They were excited, rightfully so. A great crowd on hand. Ended up being a terrific matchup. What did you see in that game?
Well, first of all, I start off when I pulled up to the stadium, and Lord forgive me, they just named the stadium on Thursday, so I don't know the official name of the stadium yet, but I know it's somebody's community field. But when you pulled up, there was a great atmosphere. I got there maybe 30 minutes before the game. Brian got there maybe about an hour or so before the game. So great atmosphere, just like anything else when it's your first time doing it. There were a few logistical issues because people didn't know where to go to enter and where to go stand in line to get tickets. But the staff down there at Edward Waters was great as far as pointing people in the right direction. It was just amazing. And just like any other HBCU game, there were more people outside than there were inside. And you probably had about a 90% capacity inside the stadium. Don't know what the official attendance was in the game. Did not come across that number in the box score. But it was about a 90% capacity. Get into the game. Florida Memorial took the opening kickoff and went straight down the field like Edward Waters was still in a scrimmage. And they just diced them up like they had Edward Waters' defensive playbook. And in about 7-8 plays, let me look at the drive chart, it was 2 minutes into the game, you had Florida Memorial up 6-0. Why do I say 6-0? Bad snap on the ensuing PAT. That's going to be the theme of the day as I continue on with my breakdown of this game. Then on the next kickoff, Edward Waters receives The return man goes to the house. Here's the problem, fellas. Not one, not two, but 3 handkerchiefs on the field.
Oh, no.
So they all penalties offset, re-kick. You know what he did, right? He went back to the house on the next kickoff. Went on the left side the first time, went down the right side the second time. And yes, on that second run, the monkey jumped on his back at about the 30. The problem was the gorilla jumped on everybody else's back and they couldn't catch him. But guess what? Another handkerchief on the field. This time against Edward Waters only. So they had to bring it back. To sum it up, first half is what you expect for two teams that actually played at some point in time last year. It was a very sloppy first half. Penalties, false starts, you name it. We had it in the first half. I think there was 3 times where you got called for 12 men on the field on defense at the snap. And we had block punts. We had a pick 6. We had a fumble 6. You know, we had some of everything in this game.
No, the field is named Nathaniel Glover Community Field and Stadium, as you were referencing. I'm glad you pointed that out. And that is significant because when you talk about Nathaniel Glover, he is an alumni of the institution. He was also a sheriff in the community. So he is huge in that community in terms of what he has been able to do for Edward Waters University in terms of that. Fascinating to me. Huge moment for the city of Jacksonville and state of Florida when you talk about the opening of this stadium, paying homage to alumnus of the university. I thought that was really unique when you talk about how they put all that together. With that being said, let me go to you, BJ Jones. What were your thoughts in general in terms of that game, particularly when you talk about how it went down to the wire? Edward Waters got it done. Scoring with 16 seconds left in that game, the crowd erupts. What are your thoughts?
Oh, man. First of all, man, the facility is beautiful. Edward Waters has been putting that out on social media all week. Beautiful facility. They just got through by the skin of their teeth. And if you're an Edward Waters fan, coming into yesterday, bringing in a new facility, new coaching staff, I think you may be a little concerned because the last time we saw Florida Memorial play, they were not impressive, to say the least. So Edward Water fans, they might be concerned, but just keep in mind that this is the first game. First game under a new regime. It was going to be sloppy. It was going to be ugly. The main thing is that you won. But I was shocked by the score because I expected, Edward Waters to win this one by a few scores.
Charles, how about you? What do you say about this matchup? I love what BJ Jones said because you're right. That field, if nothing else, when they went in there and said that we're bringing football back and we're going to do it first class, the momentum that Edward Waters University has, changing the name of the university, getting the grant as they move in from the NAIA to the NCAA Division II. Those that follow all HBCU knows that was in progress. They finally got the official word, and now they become an official member of the NCAA. And they are the only, and I love the way they're branding this, the only HBCU in the state of Florida that operates at the Division II level. They always talk about the first HBCU in the state of Florida. They are brilliant in terms of the marketing component of that. So, Charles, take it in either direction. What are your thoughts on Edward Waters University?
As a college football fan, I think it was fun. And we just saw the pictures up there for your home crowd to get that exciting first win. And you talk about the renaissance of Edward Waters College, the Edward Waters University, to bringing back football to this field turf and to get that exciting ending like that couldn't be happier for their fan base to get that win against Florida Memorial. So, all aspects are pointing up for Edward Waters getting into the season. But what better way to bring in sort of this renaissance of Edward Waters football? His first game, great crowd, great atmosphere, and then you get the last-second win, and that's what college football is all about.
Great points made by all. Let's take our second break. We'll get back. We'll touch just a little bit on Kentucky State and Central State. That is a rivalry game played as a classic. Unique style because they'll actually play twice. This one did not count in the conference standings. The next one will, but it'll be fascinating to see whether Central State will be able to turn things around because it was not working out in their favor. With that said, this is Dr. Bill inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington, Charles Bishop. Our Sunday edition has us joined with BJ Jones, the football analyst. Check him out every Wednesday at 6 o'clock Central Standard Time as he debuts last week his show. He will continue to do that throughout the year. He's part of the BCSN, the network. So join. If you want to get it from a podcast version, it's my BCSN, my JBN. Join us. We will give you your latest and greatest. And we're still working on 2 other big names to come into the fold of BCSN. We will dominate the live platform where you can see HBCU talk. And if you got folks that are on the BCSN and you want to join the team in terms of that sports talk, people that have already doing it, you need to reach out to your counterparts and say, hey, you might want to be part of the network that's taking things to the next level. With that, I'm Dr. Ville inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington, Charles Bishop, BJ Jones, AD Drew. Stick with us for the second half of the show. We're really going to get into it a little more. You saw it just touching on it. We'll be right back after this break.
For 200 years, Montgomery, Alabama has been making history by people who had the courage to stand up for change. Today, this riverfront city has been reborn, embracing the past and looking forward to the future. From the National Memorial for Peace and Justice to the stage of the Alabama Shakespeare Festival, this is where history was and is made. We are proud to call Montgomery home, and together, we can be the change.
It's the show where we take you inside the game before the game begins. It's the pregame. With your host, Charles Bishop and Neely. So get ready because we pregame harder than the other show's party. It's the pregame.
Yes, that sound means it's time once again for the 36th annual Labor Day Classic. Featuring the Prairie View A&M Panthers versus your Texas Southern Tigers for the Battle of the Lone Star State on Saturday, September 4th. Kickoff, 7 p.m. at BBVA Stadium. Don't forget the halftime battle of the bands as the TSU Ocean of Soul take on the PVA-MU Marching Storm. Tickets are available online at www.tsusports.com/LDC tickets. Let's bring the Nick Sterling Traveling Trophy back to its rightful home.
Your ad could be ran here. MyJBN.com/support. MyJBN.com/support for more information.
This is Dr. Ville inside HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington, Charles Bishop. Mike is in with the team. I told you, second half, we're going down. We got BJ Jones, AD Drew in terms of the analyst, bringing it to you nice and live. Let me give some shout outs for all those true lab lecturers getting in here, giving a shout out, special shout out to the MEAC folks, Lonnie Shaw, North Carolina NP. You see, he still has some love for the MEAC, or is this just a tad bit of concern for Alcorn? Today's lesson, how to beat Alcorn 101. Coach Oliver was in Coach Washington's class. Oh, my goodness. Alcorn lost the game because they couldn't tackle Caleb in there. Dwight Moore's in the house. Reginald Johnson, Charles Bishop, yes, sir. You all got me on hooks. Appreciate you, Reginald. Jumping in here, that's Brother Johnson. I understand. Reggie Watson says, watch our ESPN HBCU football here to stay. No doubt about it. Amos and Fawcett, Michael Ford. Arnold is on here. Reginald Kennedy, William Boney, Lonnie Shaw, as we said, Willie Bowden. Carlos Brown is in the house. I'm eating crow next week. Oh, yeah, it's going to be humble pie. Nelvin Short, embarrassing. Woo, tough. It's tough out here. North Carolina Central running back number 0 was killing them. Alan Malone says, Creole style. Yeah, it's going to be interesting. I know some people shot in earlier, Jamie Walker. It took their lightning delay to get Edward Waters University charged up. Is that what it was? Okay, I see you listening. Will Maslin Sincere agreed, very sloppy in terms of what Wildmeyer says, Florida Memorial's biggest fan, in my opinion. With that being said, let's get back into it before we really get into the North Carolina Central Brave matchup, the MEAC SWAC Challenge, SWAC MEAC Challenge. I guess now we can just call it the MEAC SWAC Challenge the way that ended up not going the SWAC's way. Wow. I'll leave it at that. With that being said, let's sneak in here a little bit. Go up to the Midwest. Kentucky State athletics in terms of what was going on there. Kentucky State, thoroughbreds. Charles told everybody that listened to him, he has enough of Kentucky State. He believes in what they can bring to the table. And he said, y'all can keep playing around if you want. They got it done. 20-6 over Central State. They really jumped out early. First quarter took a 6-0 lead. They added to it in the second quarter with another touchdown, going up 13-0 at the half. Central State finally gets on the board in the fourth quarter as neither team scores in the third. But as they get on the board with 6 points, Kentucky State adds another touchdown. So that's your final score, 20-6. Kentucky State gets it done. As we said, this is not a conference matchup, although both teams are in the conference in the same division. And so they'll play later this year. Let me yield to our football guru and analyst, B.J. Jones, to kind of start it all off. What are your thoughts in terms of this matchup?
Kentucky State did what they needed to do. And I kind of felt like they would win this game. Most people would call them the favorite going in. They run an offense that is difficult to stop because it's something that you don't see every week. Yeah. And if you're not accustomed to seeing it, it's weird. Defensively, you have to play assignment football. And if you don't, they will gas you to death. And defensively, they played a solid ball game. I think Kentucky State could potentially be a dark horse in the SIAC this year. I know a lot of people talk about Miles College. A lot of people talk about Savannah State. Maybe this is the year you see the return of Tuskegee. But I think that Kentucky State could very well be a dark horse. And they didn't show a lot. They didn't really get unique in blitz schemes or anything they did defensively because they have to play this football team again in the conference matchup. So, look out for the thoroughbreds of Kentucky State.
Charles, let me go to you. You're familiar with Kentucky State.
Very familiar.
As you like to say, too familiar. So,
too familiar.
Exactly. You called it very early. You said, hey, that option, first game of the season, you don't want any of that. With that said, maybe we're looking at this backwards. Central State found a way to hang in there in terms of what can be an explosive offense. Total yards, 322 for Kentucky State and 260 for Central State. Charles, what do you say about this game?
I thought Kentucky State didn't, maximize the opportunities in the red zone. They were 1 of 4, but I always look at the rushing yards with Kentucky State and the time of possession. They just keep you off the field. They're going to always win that time of possession deal with that option attack, that wishbone attack. But, 322 yards rushing. Eventually, that wears you down, and you get your opportunities off of that. 51 attempts rushing the ball, 322 yards, only 4 pass attempts. they can physically just rough you up, and eventually that's what happened to Central State. So hats off to Kentucky State, man. Like BJ said, you're not accustomed to seeing that funky, weird wishbone stuff, that flex bone, that option, if you will, and it's assignment football, and one breakdown can spell doom for you.
Amos says, "Is this your king? Is this your king?" I think he's talking about Alcorn State and North Carolina Central. We'll get to that. Boy, these folks are having a field day. I love it. AD Drew, Kentucky State won this game and had 0 passing yards. Central State had 126, more balanced, but not enough for them. They rushed for 134. But obviously, if Kentucky State had 322 total yards, did not pass any, they rushed for 322 yards. They had 13 penalties, 112, versus just 47 penalties, yards for Central State, just 5 penalties. So they played a pretty clean game, but it wasn't enough to get it done against Kentucky State. AD, your thoughts on this game?
I'm in agreement with Charles. You have to look at the time of possession and the rushing yards. But also, let's think about how both teams are built today. Most teams defensively are built smaller on the back end, quick, fast, because they have to be able to cover all the different routes, 4, 5 wide. So now when you have a team who likes to bruise and keep the ball up the gut and then get you in space, most teams are not built defensively to stop that anymore. Most teams do not have the talent on campus to stop that anymore, because they're not even doing that in high school anymore. So at least if you saw it in high school, there might be some muscle memory that takes you back to how to play this type of scheme. But everybody is running 5 wide in high school now and running it with, so most of them run it with success. Some of them should go back to old school football. But I'll just leave it at that. That's Kentucky State's advantage. They're doing, it's like when the passing game first came along, when people first went 5 wide, the running back, everybody had all these linebackers. Now nobody has linebackers. That's why Kentucky State has this advantage.
Another great point when you talk about that. That's like going back to Mississippi Valley State days when they first came out with all that passing, different formations and things in nature. They certainly had an advantage in a lot of ways. Maybe that's something Mississippi Valley needs to consider in terms of the difference of the scholarship that they're going to have to do a little bit differently. But we'll see, because it looks like Coach Danzy has them certainly heading in the right direction. With that being said, Mike, you're in the house now. What were your thoughts on the Kentucky State Central State matchup?
I echo kind of what's been said before, but I think we need to pump the brakes a little bit. It is Central State. They finished 2-4, 0-6, at best, maybe third in the south part or the bottom part of the SIAC. It's a game. Kentucky State plays a weird offense. It slows the offense down. It's wishbone, so they're going to gobble up time on the clock. So let's pump the brakes on. Let's see, get a few more data points. My perspective. Get some more data points.
Not the data points again. Oh, Mike, he's killing us with these data points. I love it. With that being said, we're going to take our last break, and we're going to come back and we're going to get into what everybody wants to talk about. A little bit of the MEAC SWAC challenge. We'll get in knee deep, starting with the football analyst guru. He's going to bring it first. So let's tease him as we get ready to take this last break. Dr. Ville's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Watson, Charles Bishop, BJ Jones, and AD Drew, bringing it live in action. Stick with us. We'll be right back after this break.
The inaugural Boeing Red Tails Classic is personal to me. It's more than a matchup between Tuskegee University and Fort Valley State University. My beloved father, Colonel Lawrence E. Roberts, was a proud member of the Tuskegee Airmen. 922 brave pilots, also known as the Red Tails, fought in World War II. The Boeing Red Tails Classic is more than a celebration of HBCUs. It's a reminder of the Tuskegee Airmen's valor and sacrifice, the first class of black fighter pilots who trained at Tuskegee Institute in Alabama during the height of Jim Crow, fighting for America, while in many ways America fought right back against them. This inaugural Boeing Red Tails Classic, this football game, is for them. And it's quite special that this game, which will be played at the Crampton Bowl in Montgomery, Alabama, opens the 2021 college football season on Sunday, September 5th at 7 p.m. Eastern on ESPNU. When you watch this game, please remember its larger meaning, that it's for a group who advocated for themselves while still facing prejudice and discrimination in the segregated Army. The Tuskegee Airmen story hardly gets told enough. I, proud daughter of a Tuskegee Airman, join others who champion their legacy and how they influence generations of black cultural and political leaders.
Thank you guys for what you do for HBCU athletics. This is a fantastic avenue for all of us. This is our ESPN, so we love what you guys do. Brian, AD, Roy, all you guys at BCSN. We really appreciate what it is that you guys do for us.
Texas Southern takes on Prairie View A&M for the Nick Gurley Traveling Trophy and the Labor Day Classic on September 4th. Tickets available online at tsusports.com/LBC tickets.
This is Dr. Bill inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Watson, Charles Bishop of the pregame show, BJ Jones of Inside the HBCU Football. Go to the lounge. If you want to sit out in the lounge, you better join BJ Jones every Wednesday at 6 o'clock Central Standard Time. He'll give you 2 impactful hours. Then you got none other than AD Drew with Sports Rap, Brian and AD, as they bring it just like they can none other. With that being said, let's get into it. Some people are coming in with the information. I think, Charles, you talked about this. Carl Edmonds says Alcorn lost 4 offensive linemen and 3 defensive linemen from 2019. That's where they lost the game. They certainly did not get any push on the defensive side. Offensively, they could not move the ball like many people thought they could. Charles pointed this out. BJ Jones talked about the offensive line, trying to wake people up to give them an understanding, although I think people still thought they were going to find a way to get it done. First quarter, it looked like they were going to go in that direction. Went down the field, put in a touchdown, looked like they were in another good position, did not score, and they left the gate open, as many people talk about. And Central, the Eagles swooped in, soared in, as they like to say, and they made sure that you're going to leave it open. We're going to take advantage of it. Let me start with the football guru as we talk about. BJ Jones, what angle do you want to go with this matchup here? What were your thoughts?
Before I get started, let me be the first to apologize to all the good people in North Carolina Central. I said this confidently, that Alcorn would cover the 13.5 spread, and they would cover it easily. I expected to see a close first half, and then Alcorn pull away. I gave your football team no credit. I apologize to Trey Oliver and his staff. Yep. Now, since we've gotten that all out of the way, Alcorn has some issues, okay? Those issues first start on the offensive line. Alcorn can actually run block pretty good. If you look at Alcorn, they actually average 5.7 yards per carry, which is pretty good. The problem with Alcorn on the offensive line is pass blocking. Yeah. Oftentimes, they don't know who to block. They don't know when to block them. And the disturbing part, if you're a Brave fan, when it's one-on-one in pass blocking, they just simply can't block. So it ain't about what's up there, it's who's up there. There's a talent deficiency up front for Alcorn, okay? Felix Harper was trying to do too much. He had a couple of reads where he should have gave, and he decided to pull it out and throw it. turn the ball over. That one turnover was crucial when the ball slipped out of his hand. Luckily for Alcorn, the kid from Central fell on the football. They won the scoop and score. Defensively, in the secondary, they are missing Quintero Cole. Quintero Cole was an eraser back there. Quintero Cole he's not back there anymore. I think that 5 is actually a good ball player. The corners, there's room for improvement. Let me just say that. There's room for improvement at the cornerback position. The linebackers, oftentimes, they get lost in space, and they don't tackle well. All right? Richard, Freeman, Totten, and Curry combined for 39 carries, 207 yards for North Carolina Central. All right? Also, in the pass game, Felix Harper, we talked about, the debate between him and Aqeel Glass, who was the best quarterback in the conference. Felix Harper yesterday went 17 to 27 for 154 yards, only 5.7 yards per attempt. You had Richard from NC Central, who went 16 to 25 for 184 yards. He didn't throw a touchdown. He had an interception, but he had put 2 on the ground. Alcorn looks like a football team that hadn't played in 2 years. But if you're an Alcorn fan, listen to me. RELAX. Relax. You don't know who North Carolina Central is. For all that we know, we could be looking at the MEAC champion. All right? It's early to tell. Everything that's predicted in the summertime are projections based on how these teams did the year before. Central brought in 42 freshmen. That's almost a new football team. Okay? Relax. Alcorn has not lost a conference game. Everything that was before them, before the season started, still is attainable, still before them. This football team can improve, and until we get into mid-October, they're still there. Now, I will say this: you got Northwestern State, South Alabama, and Arkansas Pine Bluff. Your next 3, you better get that shit right quick, because what you don't want to do is go 0-4 or 1-3.
Hey, BJ, real quick. You're saying with regards to North Carolina Central, that roster flip really was a talent acquisition sort of deal for Central.
Not the same kind of talent acquisition that you had in Jackson. Not the same. These were kids who were actually on the roster previously, redshirted, and they signed. They wouldn't hire guns. But it was a good one now. I'm not saying Drew said about the numbers. You can make the numbers say what you want them to say.
I'm glad you didn't let him get away with that, BJ Jones. I'm going to go to Mike next because he looked like he was in church this morning. All I was waiting for him to say was amen. He looked like he was inside the HBCU sports church. Like him in there just waiting. He hit amen. Yes.
Amen. Let me also start by saying to the North Carolina Central fans where Mike was wrong. I said the 2 touchdown lead would go to Alcorn. I was wrong. Having said that, and like BJ said, I've gotten that out of the way because I know Dr. Cavill was going to pull that up. This is what you said, Mike. You said 2 touchdowns. Alcorn State. Mike was wrong. Having said that, in the first half, Alcorn left about 17 points on the board. They played inefficient. You can't win going 1 for 10 and 3rd down conversion. You just can't do it. Felix Harper, there were times in the second half, he was off the target. There were some points that you covered, BJ. In addition, I'd like to add to that. It just seemed like Alcorn was not prepared for this game. And if you were at the game, I don't know if you saw it on TV, they had a lot of cramps. Folks going off the field, cramping issues. So there was a conditioning issue as well. They played their defense. I don't know if this was a weakness in their secondary or what, where they had one cornerback playing man-on-man, the other cornerback playing off. I don't know if it was one strong cornerback, one weaker cornerback, but that's a weird defense. They looked weird. And if you talk to some of the Alcorn State fans, I went down and I was like, just to hear what the barbershop talk was in the stadium, they were like, stick to the run, stick to the run. They tended to get away from the run. And if you notice, they blocked well from the run. I mean, they have a great running back duo in Sanderson and Duffy, but they tended to get away from it. They're bread and butter. So you're like, what's going on? So, and then on the defensive ball, their secondary just looked lost at times. As you mentioned, their linebackers busted coverage. And then, of course, you throw the conditioning factor. You wonder, does 2 years plus conditioning, did that factor in today? But I will say that I will lend to the fact that Alcorn State lost that game more so that NCCU won it. NCCU played. Yeah, they played a very efficient game. If you watch the game, North Carolina Central played efficiently at times. They had more turnovers. I think they had 14 penalties, I'm sorry. But they played efficiently where it counted. Whereas if you look at Alcorn State, they made mistakes at crucial periods of time. They went 2 for 4 in the red zone. And I think relax. It's one data point. That's my term. It's one data point. I think this is still a very good team. I think they're coachable, but they just were not prepared for this game, and it showed up consistently. So I can't go back to the conditioning piece, though. You had players hobbling off with cramps, whatever. So you had Coach McNair running down the sideline screaming at folks missing assignments. I've never seen Coach McNair run down the sideline screaming at folks that much. So that's kind of my take on it, my initial take on it.
Another points made there. You saw Coach North Carolina Central looting the water bucket. He played and coached well all game. Everything went his way. But there were some crucial plays. We saw earlier the fumble that could have went for pick 6 if they were fortunate not to get. But that's some of those points coming off the board that you talk about, Mike. The cramps, yeah, they show those on TV. Charles said that quite a bit of time, talking about, man, look who's cramping up, who's hurt there. But I really like the way that you talk about North Carolina Central being efficient. But that's what it takes to win games.
Yeah,
is to their credit, they did what they needed to do at the point. I thought also in some ways, before I pass it to Charles to get his thoughts and see if I'm wrong with this, in some ways it looked like the Braves were chasing all the prognosticators' thoughts on the game. Instead of playing the game, they were chasing the game at times instead of playing through the game, as hearing that they're supposed to win big. So it seemed like they always were looking for big plays. They took the lead. As Stephen A. Miller says, he kept waiting for Alcorn to turn it on, and they never did. There were points where I thought they'd turn it on, and then they just got away with what they were doing. They took the lead as Central got in there, and you thought, well, maybe Central was going to pull away themselves, and the Braves were in trouble. Alcorn State jumped back in there, took the lead. He was like, okay, it's time for them to do what they did, and Eagles efficiently did what they needed to do. And that punt return, boy, woo, now that closed the door.
That was a nail in the coffin. That was one of the nails in the coffin right there. The body was completely Charles.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, let me give a shout out to the valets at the MEAC Winning Hotel, because y'all made a little bit of money last night, as we've seen at the MEAC Party Hotel. Yeah, y'all get to kick it at the MEAC Party Hotel. I mean, collectively,
that's where we stayed the last couple of years. You know,
right.
We come in there pulling for the SWAC. We like this. This is where it's been hot. So until we figure that out and things change, we stay in with the MEAC Hotel.
Yeah, I mean, to follow up on everybody, our collective SWAC arrogance got the best of us on this one. But, I mean, in reality, let's call it what it is. It's an upset. North Carolina Central, last we saw them, they were below 500. And we're talking about the SWAC West champions. So this is a legit upset when you take a look at what Central did. I think, Dr. Ville, you made a great point in terms of how the game flowed for Alcorn, trying to get that big play. We saw that big chunk play with Stanford Anderson. That 68-yard run, that tackle was a game saver because that was a missed field goal. So you just talk about little things along the way there. But I mean, when you take a look at this game, Alcorn, to me, they just got away from what I thought they were doing best, and that was running the football. BJ, you touched on it. Their pass protection was pretty poor last night. I think I've talked about they were replacing quite a few linemen across the front, 4 offensive linemen across the front. Defensively, I thought they wore down in the second half. Mike, you talked a little bit about the conditioning. And when you talk about North Carolina Central running for 200 yards against them, that was huge. But, to echo the point, I mean, it's game one. And our collective SWAC pride took a 1-2 last night. But you take your hat off to the MEAC. You take your hat off to North Carolina Central. You take your hat off to Trey Oliver in terms of the game plan that they had last night for Alcorn and making Felix Harper throw the football. I thought they got after him pretty good. They hit him early, and that's something that you have to do in terms of trying to rattle Felix Harper, because I think he's a pretty good, one of the better passers in the SWAC. But it's game one. I think Alcorn still has their goals in front of them. They'll be right there toward the end with regards to some of the things that I thought they can do. And they still got playmakers, still got Juan Anthony, still got LaCharles Pringle. So it's game one. Collectively, our SWAC pride is took a little bit last night, but it's going to be all right. I think it's going to be all right. We'll see Alcorn right there at the end.
Hey, Trey Oliver rubbed that pride into the SWAC.
Well, he should. He should.
Yeah, he deserved that. He deserved it. He did it at the end of the game, and he did it in the press conference. I think I texted you guys some of his quotes, but man, he rubbed it in.
Yeah. I mean, all's fair and to the victor go the spoils of war. So no problems with that, Trey. And nice way to elude the Gatorade bath at the end. But you win the MEAC SWAC challenge, man. Bathed in that victory. That's what you got to do.
Yeah,
Speaking of that press conference
made by
Mike.
all. Let me let AD jump in here. But with that being said, you have Amos jump in here and say, let's be honest, guys. The SWAC is not physical. Dwight Moore says that's a false narrative. Just as all MEAC teams aren't physical, all SWAC schools are physical. However, some MEAC teams are physical, just like some SWAC. And many people talk about, generally speaking, Alcorn State is usually a very physical team.
They are.
What they ever do. So it's going to be interesting to see what that is. Barrick Williams says Amos Fawcett Southern is a very physical team. Jamie jumps in here. Central's quarterback made plays when he had Davis Richard. We talked about this all night. He played extremely well. Belle Glade, Florida. As I turn it over to A.D. Drew, I wonder what the rest of the SWAC are going to think about some of these Florida quarterbacks. Well, we got 2 Florida schools coming in, so you might see more of them. They are intriguing to watch. So, A.D. Drew, what are your thoughts on this matchup as you saw it?
I'm getting ready to play that clip that Mike sent us last night.
I played coaching SWAC for several years, but we played good football in the MEAC. I know we lost North Carolina A&T, FAM, and Cookman, right? But we've won championships since the last time 2 of them schools won one. So we play good football, and we will continue to play good football, or at least in Durham, North Carolina, we will.
Coach, thank you. Appreciate it.
Wow. Go ahead, AD.
First of all, everybody in Black media needs to apologize to North Carolina Central. Number one. Number two, I got some pills and a thermometer here because it is apparent that Alcorn State is allergic to the city of Atlanta because they just can't go there and perform. So we need to get them some medicine over there on the reservation. But seriously, looking at the game.
And some people say we need to make sure they get some cleats as well.
It was a shoe.
You know, I'm going to use a basketball analogy and a boxing analogy as I make my comments very briefly. You ever been at a basketball game when a shooter hits that first Steph Curry 3?
Yeah.
The rest of the night, and they keep shooting from Steph Curry land, and that's the only one that they hit from the night from 25 feet. That was Alcorn. They hit they hit that first jump shot, and then they couldn't hit anything else. They couldn't throw the ball in the ocean the rest of the night. Also, and I've said this on some other shows, it kind of goes back to the Muhammad Ali, Joe Frazier scenario back when Ali had his title stripped. Alcorn had their title stripped from them. They did not lose it on the field. So they came out, thought they would go still be able to do what they were going to do, and maybe didn't work quite as hard. Remember, Ali lost his first real fight after he came back from his suspension.
Yeah, great point.
Yeah, great point.
Same thing with the Braves. Lost their real fight. And one thing I want everybody to look at this year, looking at some of these games, look at the coaches who took over in the summertime. That means after the spring season, versus those coaches who took over in the traditional time and either played in the spring or had spring practice. And now we got to throw in another factor. Look at the coaches who actually took jobs in 2020 and had a whole year to prepare those teams. Let's see how those teams do throughout this season, especially early. I'm starting to notice that the coaches of teams who took over in May are not as far along as we expect them to be at this point in time, just based on the time in the system.
Great points made by all. Rapid fire, last thing we'll do before we close up. I'll get each of yours opinion as we get into the tic-tac-toe, if you would, of the framework. How far does the Alcorn State Braves fall out of the top 5? Do they even fall out of the top 10? Let me stick with you, A.D. Drew. Do they fall out of the top 5, out of the top 10? What you say?
Definitely out of the top 5. I actually vote in my poll, in the media poll. I actually voted Central 8. Now, now everybody sees why I voted Central 8. I don't care where it is, but Central better be ahead of Alcorn in the next media poll. That's my comment on it.
Do they jump in the top 5? Yes or no?
I don't think Central not quite top 5, but Alcorn needs to be below Central. I think Central could come in about a 6 or a 7, where Alcorn needs to be down there about 9, 10, possibly even receiving votes, because they did not look good.
AD, this is what we call rapid fire. Mike,
okay.
Out of the top 5, out of the top 10, does Central sneak in top 10, top 5?
Yes, Central sneaks in. Alcorn sneaks out of the top 5, still in the top 10.
Charles, Alcorn out of the top 5. Do you put them out of the top 10? Where do you place Central?
Alcorn is still a top 10 team. You might drop them out of the top 5 this week. I think Central, with that performance, they at least should get some look-see into the top 10. So kudos to Central.
BJ Jones, the football guru. Alcorn out of the top 5, 10. Central, where do they land?
Alcorn's definitely out of the top 5. I would put Central somewhere around 7 or 8, 6 or 7.
Nice. It'll be interesting to see. Dr. Cavill's Inside HBCU poll rankings will debut on Tuesday in terms of week 0. So we'll see what they think there. We'll get the mid-major poll ranking. A lot of things happen in that. We'll see what that looks like. You will not get some of the national polls until after week 1, but we want to make this interesting and keep the talk up going on. So I want to thank everybody for jumping in here. We have BJ Jones Inside football, HBCU football lab, as he tells you to come into the lounge. That's every Wednesday at 6 o'clock. And AD Drew with the sports wrap. Check them out. All of us on BCSN. And you know where to find us Tuesday and Thursday and now Sunday, right here to give you the breakdown of what took place on Saturday. We have a big lineup for next Sunday. We'll get into more talk about that during the week. So stick with us. Thank you for listening to Inside HBCU Sports Lab. Make sure you share our podcast with your friends and colleagues. I am Dr. Kenyatta Cavill, the Dean of HBCU Sports, coming from inside the lab, inside the College of HBCU Sports with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. Charles, where can they find you and get your stuff or some of the other things that you're getting done?
Oh, no doubt. You can come catch me on the pregame show on our YouTube channel, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. But we will be hot and heavy this upcoming week from Miami, Florida, from the Orange Blossom Classic. And, of course, the main thing is the main thing. 90 minutes prior to Jackson State kickoff, it is the pregame show.
No doubt about it. Mike Washington, what do you have going on around you?
1876 Sports and Culture, baby, starting this weekend. Releasing the first season 2, episode 1 on Tuesday, the 31st. So look forward to a season 2 with 1876 Sports and Culture.
DJ Jones?
Hey, inside HBCU football, Wednesday. So right there in the middle of the week, we'll be looking at the week ahead. The games are coming up this weekend, a lot of key ball games. And you can usually catch me on Friday with HBCU Game Day, man. Tyler usually will drop some gems, so be on the lookout.
Nice. Also, I heard in your show that you're going to bring in a little bit of that culture and bring in some band talk, which brings me to the fact today we have another big event, National HBCU Battle of the Bands will be today in Houston. My son Deuce is excited because I'm make sure that he's going to go check that game out. He's right here making sure that he's prepared. He's already dressed. He plans to take his hat as he's going to be in full gear, ready to go. So I thought I'd share some love there. You can come sneak in here, son, and we're at the end of the show. Everybody wants to see and be a part of it. Tell everybody hi. This is going to keep you safe. These are all your uncles out here putting in their work. Exactly. It's Uncle Mike, Alpha Mike. There you go, Uncle Charles, Alpha Charles, getting you done. AD Drew, where can they find you?
Actually, we'll be on tonight. We're going to come on an hour earlier than we did last week. We'll be on at 6 p.m. Eastern time, 5 o'clock Central time for a 2-hour edition of the BCSN Sports Wrap, our Sunday edition, because the pregame show, weather permitting, will follow us tonight at 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Central with their reaction show to the debut of Prime tonight. So you can catch me on Sunday, and we run a midweek show also, usually on Thursdays.
Great points made here. And again, we want to thank you for listening to Dr. Bill's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Watch and Charles Bishop every Tuesday, Thursday at 6 o'clock Central Standard Time, as well as Sunday at 9 a.m. Wake up for us before you get going to church. That's 9 a.m. Central Standard Time. You'll have this team and this group bringing you hot and heavy the news of what took place on Saturday. So look forward to it. We look forward to you next week as we discuss the latest news in the lab. Follow me, Dr. Kenyatta Cavill. That's DrKenyattacavil. That's DrKenyattacavil on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. In fact, follow the whole team. Let's get it going. It's football season. We'll sneak in a little bit of that volleyball, women's soccer. It's going to be hot and heavy. We'll keep you on all the HBCU news right here inside the HBCU Sports Lab 1. That's Twitter. As we have G. Boone Holly. He'll have some great pictures from what they got done. And on Tuesday, Mike will give you some more information as he was in Atlanta. So he'll give you some of the cultural aspects of what took place there. He went out there and saw the game day Home Depot as they did it nice. Facebook, Inside the HBCU Sports Lab, YouTube, like, subscribe. Let's do it big. Dream big and continue to move forward. We will save it for BJ Jones and AD. We'll make sure we keep them out of trouble. We will talk with you soon. So, Charles.
Of course.
Mike.
Lecture.
Dismiss.
Prayers to those in the storm's path.
Yes.
Absolutely. Prayers to everybody out there. Be safe. Stay strong.